Today's episode's brought to you by
Greenwall.
me going
Greenwall.
to me going to
Drop the beat.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to High Noon Podcast, the competitive Overwatch podcast. I am your host, Blevins. With me, as always, is Deathflow. What's up, buddy?
Not too much. A big week, big day in Overwatch esports, and I am super pumped to be doing this episode today. It's huge. Internet, it's huge.
I've just got to say that we need to make a sound. You need to add Greenwall to the soundboard. Just you saying it, because it's pretty great.
Yeah, we'll probably do that.
Yep.
I expect to be very obnoxious about my new team. So yeah, we'll get that going soon.
Yeah. And we've got a lot to talk about. So let's do a little bit of, well, I guess we can kind of fuse these two things together. So let's talk about what we did last week, and I'll start us off. So this is just a huge week for us, for Overwatch, for everything. So first things first, BlizzCon is this weekend. I will be there. I've got a meet and greet at Con Before the Storm at 9 p.m. local time. So if you're going to be at BlizzCon, you're going to be at Con Before the Storm, and you see me, just come say hi or something. I promise I won't be freaked out if you're not one of the first three people that do it, because I will be freaked out for the first three people that come up and recognize me. 100%. So all sorts of stuff relating to BlizzCon. In that vein, Death and I woke up so early on Saturday morning and did a little Halloween spooky BlizzCon episode with the Omnic Lab. And that was a lot of fun. Obviously, here's what I'll say. I cannot confirm or deny whether or not I've been on the Omnic Lab, but I will say that Doc Pool has been on Omnic Lab.
Yeah, so I was definitely there.
Yep.
It's not actually Roadhog behind the mask. It's just me. It was a whole lot of fun. And yeah, we have so much Overwatch League news to talk about in this episode that it's just kind of perfect. It worked out. We got to do all of our BlizzCon coverage over there.
Yeah.
So we've tweeted out links to it. Is it going to actually show up in the feed, the episode?
I haven't decided yet, but at the very least, it will be tweeted out, and the links and all that stuff. Check out Omnic Lab. If you haven't already, regardless, go subscribe to Omnic Lab on iTunes and YouTube and all that good stuff. They're, a brother podcast of ours for over a year now. I think we first had them. They've skyrocketed. They do a really great actual in-game analysis and hero review type of podcast.
Really focused on strategy for the players.
Super focused on strategy for the players. They've been a brother podcast of ours for quite some time now. We've done some host swaps before. This was the first time that, we'll say air quotes, all four, though I can't confirm or deny whether I was actually on the show. Hosts were on the same show together, so that was great. I will be meeting up with Andres and Rob at BlizzCon, while Death is just chanting Greenwall over and over.
Gonna do that.
So that was the first bit of news, and you may think, oh man, that was a lot of stuff going on. No, we have more. So yesterday in past future podcast world, and we got to talk to Bare Hands, the director of player personnel for the New York Excelsior. On the day of the team roster announcement and branding and all that stuff announcement, we got a first look and first talk with Bare Hands. Really, I think the only public thing he's actually talked on for the team thus far. So we're really honored and happy to have been able to do that with him. That is going to be released in the next couple of days if you're listening to this early, or it should already be released. It's a High Noon Hot Seat with Bare Hands. So that was that huge week for us. Anything else that you did, Death? Anything fun and exciting? I know today's as of recording, this is Halloween, aka Death's birthday. So happy birthday to Death for that.
Yeah, thank you very much. So yeah, a lot of birthday shenaniganry today. Um, Not a ton. I mean, I'm trying to think. It was been kind of a crazy busy week, but just been a lot of scrims and stuff like that. Obviously, I also had my Buffalo Bills make a huge trade on my birthday as well. So it's just like everything's
And they're
coming up
making a
death
run
blow
right
today.
now.
Yeah, we're doing really, really well. So I've been really focused in on football. And yeah, the Overwatch League news has come out, and anything that's happened in the last, 6 days or so basically got erased by the excitement that was today. So I'm sure I'm missing some things that I did because I know I was super busy, but for the life of me, you'd think at some point I'd get used to doing this literally every episode, but I was not prepared for this.
I got to warm up my Boo Crew pipes at a high school band state championship. No, I didn't. I didn't actually boo anyone. I was told specifically not to boo the high school kids, so I didn't. But I was in the Carrier Dome, which is where the Syracuse Orange play, watching a band competition, wanting to boo the other teams, but instead I just cheered really loud. So getting the hype and excitement up for Overwatch World Cup coming up, but. Besides that, I can't even think. Like, there's just so much like in the last 2 days that's been announced for Overwatch. I don't even think I don't even know if I lived before this week. But let's move on to what did you guys do last week, and we will talk about
Overwatch Today meme of the week.
So I'm gonna give a runner-up meme of the week to Overwatch Today. He posted one. Obviously, I'm pretty sure he's just posting these memes specifically for me. These I need healing memes. We got a Super Mario Odyssey I need healing meme. Just take a guess at how that one turns out, and you'll know exactly what it is. The best thing about these memes now is that everyone else like complains about them constantly. So
Yep.
it like the meme is actually people getting trolled in the comments. But my actual meme of the week this week is one that it's not even supposed to be a meme. It's just an actual picture that was made. So I don't even have the credits to the artist, so I feel bad. But there's and I can't find it.
You're making it a meme. Maybe they don't. Maybe it's
yeah,
best
you know
they
what?
don't
Maybe
share
it's
it.
best that they don't have it. But there is a designer who has made some cartoonized versions of Overwatch League players. I believe they did the San Francisco Shock first, and now there's a Dallas Fuel one that was made, and they're all very like cartoony and like almost like anime style. Which is fine, like, and no problem with that. But the one they made for Seagull, like, everyone has like a very distinct look, looks kind of similar, in anime style. And then there's the Seagull one, like, everyone has like a very defined chin, and then the Seagull one, like, it's like almost like they were like taking a jab at him, like they like purposely drew him with like 5 chins, like he looks like a thumb with like 13 chins. Like, I don't get it, like, why? Well, like, does this person hate Seagull? I don't get it, but I don't know. I got a laugh out of it. And even though it definitely was not supposed to be a meme, it's definitely a serious thing, I'm calling it a meme. So, but let's move right along because we've got a lot to talk about and a lot of excitement. And I know Death has been patiently waiting.
So hard for me to just not be screaming right now.
Let's just move right in.
It's tournament talk.
Yeah, I definitely cued the wrong thing. It's not tournament talk, but instead,
Let's break it down.
break it down.
Yeah, that's how many tournaments happened this week, guys. Wasn't that
It
exciting?
was quick. That was the tournament talk, and now we're breaking it down. Death, I'll let you take this one because I know you want it.
All right, so this is the big one. We're leading with it because I'm super hyped about it. I have my Overwatch League team locked in, ready to go. The brand was announced today. The roster was announced today. You'd
And
think
the roster
that all
was
the rosters would be
confirmed
announced today. Yeah, you'd think all the rosters would be announced today, but nope, we'll get to that later. Anyways, let's just stick to the hype. The Houston Outlaws have just hands down killed it, hit a home run to me with the branding. They're just the best logo. They're green and black for their colors, which I love the color
Brought to you
scheme.
by Monster Energy Drink.
Right. Sync Monster Energy if you want to know what the colors look like, about what the shade of green is. And honestly, the best part here might be the logo, Blevins.
Yeah.
It is two pistols, like think McCree pistols, and they're like, you know, the tops of them are smushed together, and then they like added horns, and it looks just like a Texas Longhorn, you know, the iconic skull image of the Texas Longhorn.
Yep.
Is very baked into this logo. It's kind of the main feature of it, but I love that it's got the McCree pistols in there as well. It's got the Dallas Star on it. Up at the top, the name, I love the name, Houston Outlaws. We talked about how awesome it would be and how one of these teams or a couple of these teams needed to embrace kind of a negative connotation word as the bad guy, the Outlaws. You know, that's exactly what they're doing here, and it's phenomenal. McCree ties in so perfectly to this brand. He's the featured guy on the art image that they put out, kind of the banner image that every one of the teams has put out so far. Just looks absolutely incredible. Anything to add on the branding side here, Blevins?
Well, we were talking about this before we started recording, and I'm like, there must have been a meeting that happened at some point, and it's like, so what are the two things you think of when you think of Texas? It's like, well, guns and like the Texas Longhorn. It's like, and I just imagine some like if you can imagine the comical like rich oil baron guy from The Simpsons being like, put them together. Like that's basically what the logo is. I think it's awesome. I've seen a little bit of criticism on Twitter about how like, oh well, of course you like that one. Everyone thinks it's the best. Like it's just basically hipsters being like, oh well, you like the best one because it's the best.
Right? Like, well, it looks too nice for me to like it.
It's too good. Everything about it is too great. Why don't you embrace the artsiness? I was like, shut up. It's great. Like it's like just shut up and like it.
Yeah, why don't you embrace the artsiness and let me embrace just the pure awesomeness that is this particular brand.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything I've heard so far kind of just is in lockstep agreement. Like, even if you don't plan on rooting for this team, I've heard nobody so far say that they don't like the branding. It really, really, they've done a phenomenal job with it. I'm super, super excited. Green's my favorite color, and the name's a plural. Holy cow, it's a plural.
We finally got one.
Right, like since the Dragons, the first one, it feels like there hasn't been another one. So it's great to see that. Literally hit every single one of my checklists as far as the branding could be concerned. And then there's this roster, Blevins.
Yeah,
it's very exciting. Obviously, we've known a good portion of this. It's been rumored to be out there, and what the roster would be. It's pretty close. I think there's a couple names added here that people didn't have.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, we knew they were going to sign FNRGFE minus Buds, and they've done that. So Muma, Coolmat69, Boink, Bonnie, and Clockwork have all been officially signed to the Houston Outlaws. So very exciting there. In addition to the core group of Corn Dogs, we're going to see Raucous from FaZe, a big signing there. He's a support player, obviously, and it's a little unclear. We're not sure. Obviously, we're not sure on any of these guys, like who's going to be starting, who's going to be playing what. That's going to be half the fun of the conversations until the preseason starts, and even after the preseason starts, because there's no reason to think they're going to roll out their default roster right away in the preseason. But anyways, so he's going to be in the flex support, probably sharing some time with Bonnie. Then we have Linkser from Giganti. That's one we did hear about a little bit earlier.
Yep.
Great to see that signing come in. Obviously a phenomenal player, a really great projectile and flex player, one of the best Widowmakers in the game. Just a phenomenal Genji play. If you're at all wondering what Linkser can do, go check out the finals from Contenders Season 1. In the end there, Linkser wins that with Giganti there. So.
And Linkser's been around forever, like way back. Like he was on the Creation Esports team.
Back in my day, my podcast used to be sponsored by the team that he played for.
Exactly. Way back, like so far back. I remember watching one of his streams, and this is back when Widowmaker was like a top tier pick. He was playing Widowmaker, and he was like renowned for being like the best Widowmaker ever. And he's playing Widowmaker, and he's playing against another Widowmaker, and he's losing this battle. I'm like, what? This is just a random stream. This isn't even. I'm like, who is possibly playing that's beating him at Widowmaker? It was literal Tavik / Pluppy. Like it was actual Pluppy playing. I'm like, oh man, this is the greatest stream ever. But yeah, no, that story had literally nothing to do with anything, but I needed to bring that up.
Just wanted to derail my hype train. I understand.
I did.
It can't be done though. Cannot stop the. There's no brakes on this train.
Nope.
Spree also signed to this team from FaZe. He's had kind of a flexible role. One of the most pronounced heroes I can remember him playing has been Reaper. He seems to pull that out quite a bit. So it'll be very exciting to see him fit in. He's also got a lot of Zarya time. He's played some Tracer in his day. I mean, he's got a pretty deep hero pool. But yeah, he should be in a flexible role with this team. And then also, who else other than Blevins' best friendo,
Yes,
Mr. Mendo Kusai has joined the team. I don't know if we had this one early or not. Like I said, my mind has literally been erased by all the news and all the signings and all the hype I have for this team in particular. He's been dormant for a while.
He was from the Buds League. He was like, "Oh, well, the roster is
that's right.
FNRGFE minus me plus Mendo." He said it exactly like that.
Well, Mendo has come from teams like C9, FaZe, and probably Blevins. Where is he best known from?
Yeah, so the last place that he did well that we can recall was on – the last place he was seen was on Maidong.
All right, well, that's enough. It's like me with my runaway joke.
Yeah,
so,
Mendo was seen on Maidong doing well.
I'm just going to run away with this particular segment here and just keep going so we can all get through that faster. But Jake as well.
Still making that joke.
Yes, 100%. That's definitely a fact. And we also have Jake here coming in from LG Evil, also Team USA. So a big player there, a big signing.
Hammers Esports.
Yep, formerly Hammers Esports. So it just a lot of hype behind this roster. They did a really good job scooping up. I mean, the ones that were a surprise to me were Spree and Raucus. There's been a lot of rumors FaZe was going to be kind of moving to Philly. And obviously we only have like 2 of these guys here, but clearly there will be some rebuilding there as well, wherever the rest of FaZe goes. But glad to see some of those guys getting worked in, scooped up. And man, all right. So to wrap things up before we talk about the rest of it, Tia Wrong, so sorry, Mr. Head Coach. I probably butchered your name. He will be the head coach of the team. Mezer will be an assistant coach. Hyun Woo will be an analyst. I apologize. I assume I messed that one. I would just assume I mess up every Korean name ever. And then the general manager for the Houston Outlaws will be Flame. So we knew there was going to be some tie in there. Yeah, I did expect Coach, but I think obviously he's going to make a phenomenal GM as well.
Yeah.
I mean, he put together this roster, and I've got to say, so far of the teams that have been cobbled together, instead of just signing full rosters, Blevins, is there anybody you want to stack up against this one and try to claim they're better? Because I will fight you, sir.
No, I mean, so this one, I think this is the strategy that I think is almost in the middle of the two that we've talked about. So Shock is on the one end of like, okay, we're going carte blanche. We're just hand picking players. That's one end. The other end is, and we'll talk about this in a second, Excelsior, as well as, I guess, in a way, Fuel for the most part, and then also Lunatic High or Soul Dynasty are kind of like, okay, here's a pre-made roster. We're just buying the team that was good, and we're putting it in, and then there's a couple, like 1 or 2 additions here. This is I guess it's closer to the pick up a team because the core, the backbone is FNRGFE, but the stars are not, honestly. Linkser, I would pick early. Linkser and Mendo are the star power to this roster. Whether or not they're the best players or not, that's to be seen. But in terms of recognizable star power, those are the two big hitters. I guess also in terms of,
you got to put Cool Matt pretty far up there in the stars list.
Yeah, for sure. Well. But and then also, I mean, Linkser has championships, or at least a contenders victory. Probably has
LAN experience. It's tough to come by.
LAN experience, and also I'm sure that Linkser has some other victories in the way back. And I know Mendo. It's tough. I had to go way back into the history books, but I know Mendo has been on some of those. Like, it was on Envious at one point in time, like old Envy, or no, it was IDDQD, which eventually mostly became Envious. We're bringing out the history books here, but Mendo has been on championship and high caliber teams. Linkser has most recently won Contenders season 1 with Giganti. I pronounce it right. There you go, Fraggy. And then, I guess Jake also with LG Evil was just very dominant for a while. I mean, FNRGFE has been a very solid team. Was kind of obviously like the whole team name is a mix of Fnatic, NRG, and then Gale Force Esports. But they never really had that, like they were never on top, you know. But the other players have had that that star power. So I mean, yes, the Cool Mat is obviously a very top tier in terms of star power, but it's a different level than a Lynx or a Mendo.
Yeah, those guys bring star power as well as, you know, just success to them. You know, obviously the guys from FaZe, I mean, FaZe really stood out in the last contenders. They really seemed to solidify by the end. So I think those players leveled up tremendously recently as well. And when I look at this roster, though, I think of two things. I do see a lot of flexibility here. And in addition to that, I see a really durable roster that can like withstand meta changes. Yeah. Like we've got guys here that live and breathe in a dive environment, and we've got guys that live and breathe in a death ball environment. And I really, you know, I think they're going to do a really good job mixing things up. I can't wait to see, you know, basically what the playing time is going to look like between these guys, because I have kind of an outlier negative opinion of Clockwork that I don't think too many people share.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Hex roasted you on that a while ago, didn't he?
Yeah. I mean, well, he said he knows Clockwork in real life. You know, I mean, he didn't fight me too hard, but he did. You know, he's friends with the guy, so he wanted to stick up for him a little bit.
Hex doesn't
sure.
fight too many things too hard, but in terms of what Hex fighting, it was pretty bad.
Yes, there was he tried to stonewall me at first. That's definitely for sure. But you know, I mean, the guys. I mean, he's made plays. I just don't know that I've seen him get tremendously better recently. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think I've seen him grow at the same rate, I guess is the best way to word it. But anyways, we got all sorts of time to talk about that, and we've got you know, plenty of other rosters to look at and discuss here, as there is at least 3-4 more to mention.
Yeah, one thing I do want to mention, because it slipped my mind when we were putting together the notes. Another huge announcement that kind of got slipped under the rug because of all the roster announcements. The Dream Team's back, Death.
Oh, yeah.
Hex ZP at Overwatch World Cup. Confirmed. Huge. Hugely excited about that, because, I mean, we're a little bit biased, but I think we're biased because we've been around for so long. The Hexagram ZP is the dream team. There is no
in our defense, we started bringing hexagrams in because we loved the commentator tandem. We didn't like get the guest and then decide to love him.
Yeah.
It was it definitely went the other direction. So really excited about that. It's been a good while since those two have been together and paired up. So
and just the biggest shout outs in the world to hexagrams and to ZP for that matter. They both deserve it, and I'm really glad. This was a little bit of insider information that I knew a little while ago, but I didn't say it. I did not leak, so I've got 1 point of credibility in terms of people telling me insider information. Tell me everything, please. I won't leak it. Maybe. But let's move on. We got the obviously we've known the logo and branding for Shanghai Dragons for quite some time. They were actually the first one that we found out officially, but we have the team now. And we will go right through that. So we've got MG, who's a tank from LGD Gaming, 5 King, support from Team CC, Zushu, who used to be Luca, is a flex from 1246. Undead is a DPS from eStar Gaming. Dia, DPS from VC Gaming. Roshan, not to be confused with the boss in Dota, is a tank from FTD Club. Altering, who used to be 130, is a support from LGD Gaming. And Freefeel, who used to be B612, is a support from FTD Club.
I don't know why these guys changed their names.
Yeah, so I'm guessing that there's some sort of rule about your name being numbers that you can't do, and then I'm assuming that Zushu is an inappropriate word or a somewhat inappropriate word in Chinese or in some culture, and they made him change it.
Well, it used to be Luca, and now it's Zushu. So I don't think that's true. Yeah. I mean,
Maybe-
it's just
maybe
kind of
League
like their last chance, right? Like to rebrand themselves, and I know a lot of people just pick their IGNs by like hitting a randomize button or something like
Yeah.
that, and now these guys have a personal brand to worry about, and there's might be something to that, numbers being in or being your name could be a problem, as we have found out that all players will have jersey numbers assigned to
Yeah.
them. So that's, obviously exciting from a merch standpoint. Like I want my player's number and I want his, his
You want
name
your
on the
cool
jersey.
Matt number 69 jersey.
Absolutely, 100%. So yeah, really exciting. But yeah, this is not really the roster I expected to see from them. Now we are, well known for not paying super close attention to the Korean and the Chinese scenes. But I mean, one thing that I knew is that Miraculous Youngsters was an up and coming team with a lot of talent on it. And a lot of people like them to at least make up a good portion of the Shanghai roster, or at least, fill in a couple of spots. But Levin's just not really, there's not a single one of those guys on here.
Right.
So really surprising, and it just tells me that China probably needs a second team in this league. So get on it for season 2.
Yeah, but I want to be on the Dragons. If I want to be on the Chinese team, I want to be on the Dragons.
I mean, I don't know enough about Chinese culture, but I have to imagine there's other
cool things.
There's other cool things going on in China than just dragons. But I mean, obviously dragons are sweet, so it would be nice to be there.
I mean,
but yeah,
there's probably a number of reasons. Without doing any additional research, which I definitely should have done, there's a chance that the players aren't old enough to be in Overwatch League. There's a chance that Miraculous Youngsters they might be in contract jail. I don't know. They may have been too late. They may have gotten good too late. We just got this roster revealed, but it doesn't mean it was finalized recently. It could have been finalized a long time ago. As we found out with Excelsior, the roster has basically been, it was rumored to be what it is essentially months ago. Shanghai could be
spoilers.
Spoilers for our own
like literal next thing we'll talk about.
Yeah, the spoilers for the next thing we're going to talk about. So there's a lot of reasons that it could be. I think what we're seeing, I almost am kind of glad that we're seeing a lot of very good talent not in Overwatch League Season 1, because it's going to make the speculation and the hype in the off season and the trade season and however that pans out, it's going to be great, because we're going to see a lot of good players make it into Overwatch League for Season 2 or maybe even mid-Season 1. And we're going to see some big swings, or at least the ability to see them in terms of roster pickups and trades and stuff. Like, I can't wait for those first trades to start. And none of this has been confirmed at all. Hopefully we're going to find this out at BlizzCon. I'm imagining we're going to find out a lot at BlizzCon about the format of the league and the not even in-game stuff, the league stuff. They only have a month and change after BlizzCon before the preseason starts, so we're gonna have to find that stuff out eventually, right? What better time than BlizzCon? So it's nice to see. Obviously, I think the Miraculous Youngsters team they're the best team in China right now, but I'm kind of glad that they're not in Overwatch League Season 1, at least not yet.
Yeah.
So. But
we will see. We will see what goes on there. The one thing I do worry about with them not being in there, and again, we don't know all the details, age, stuff like that, contract jail. That's all a very real concern. It's just I don't know that the Chinese scene will be as strong enough to showcase their talent correctly. You know what I mean? That's the one
There's
thing
no
I worry
Asian
about there.
contenders except for Apex, is I think the
Apex,
unofficial.
Yeah, and I don't think we usually see the Chinese teams over there, and I don't think that's been a normal occurrence. So we'll have to wait and see. They obviously have their own series, like the APAC Premier. I'm sure that will still be going on, but sometimes the only thing I worry about is that there's not like a good measuring stick for them, right? Because if they just go out there and like beat up all of China for the next year, like people just might assume China's less talented, not give them the proper credit they deserve. So.
But then the team that's actually doing their homework gets these, undiscovered Chinese players either really cheap, or they get them without a lot of hassle and argument from other teams. Like, that's entirely possible and entirely a good thing for those teams that are actually doing their homework. So
Yeah, so we'll have to wait and see how that pans out. But either way, we're excited to see the Shanghai Dragons in action. Everything I've heard, and really from what I've seen, like I think China is a little underrated as far as their Overwatch talent. So I'm excited to see what they can bring to the table. And we'll have to keep an eye on them. I think they're still in the World Cup too, right? So
they are. They're playing against Sweden first round.
Yeah, I haven't even done my homework enough to know if these guys are represented there. I've literally just had like this green fog in front of my eyes ever since the Outlaws announcement.
Greenwall.
Yeah, Greenwall. Oh, fuck.
Yeah. But moving on, let's talk about the team that we talked a lot about yesterday with bare hands, the New York Excelsior. This the branding and the logo a little bit more subtle.
Why don't you let me do this one, because I don't want to do the next one.
Go for it.
All right, so New York Excelsior are they have kind of a goofy logo here, right? Like, it's taken a while to grow on me. It's definitely,
I like it.
It's definitely growing on me, but it's still, it's a little weird. It's like these kind of X's that, I don't know, how would you describe the logo here?
So it's a couple of, so my thought, and I don't have any sort of confirmation, I haven't actually seen anyone else say this, is it's X's for Excelsior, but I also think it's supposed to look like streets, like New York City streets, like the grid layout. Like, I think that's what it's kind of supposed to be representing. That's my assumption. If it's not that, then I don't know what it is.
They could be
XL,
L's.
XL, yeah, XL. So like, there's probably a couple of different meanings for it, but it's very obscure. It's not like smack you in the face. This is two guns, and that guns makes a skull, like Houston Outlaws is. Not to say that in a bad way. I think it's great. I think it's awesome. But honestly, the Excelsior, everything about it has really grown on me. The color scheme, I mean, Death, you have to like the color scheme. It's Bill's colors. So
yeah.
And also, if you don't like the color scheme, you hate America because it's red, white, and blue. So just saying that you have to like it.
Don't hate freedom like New York.
Yeah, exactly. Hold on, wait. The verbiage there is very important. You're not saying that New York hates freedom.
I tried to pause it right, but yes. New York doesn't hate freedom, and you shouldn't either, so you should like New York. Okay, anyways. Let's move on to talk about the roster. As we have known for a bit, or it's been rumored for a bit, this is predominantly luxury watch blue, okay? The one big notable exception, or the player that's not there, is Flower. He's not old enough.
Right.
So we're going to basically read off the list, and then I'll make note of any of the players that are not from Luxury Watch Blue, and we'll tell you where they're from. He told me how to say this literally yesterday. Sabioldi. I'm trying. I don't know.
Tried. You failed.
DPS player for this team. Yeah, so the two notable inclusions there obviously are Libero from Meta Athena. They've been very well known to have a lot of innovative strats. I can remember very specifically them having some interesting approaches using Mei on Eichenwald, things like that. So he's obviously going to have a big impact on this team, and hopefully kind of breaks them out of their shell a little bit. Initially, I was much farther down on this roster than I am now after speaking with bare hands and getting to just ask him outright, like, why, what did you choose these guys for? What did you want? What made you want to sign them? And and hear his answer. And you're going to hear it in a couple days, so I don't want to say too much, but it just the crux of it here is that you can't be a loser in New York.
Yeah.
Not everybody gets to be the Jets. You can't just do that. You've got to win in that city, or if especially when people don't know who you are. Aside. You're introducing yourself. Like, the Jets had a history. When they came out, they were good. They were in Super Bowl II. So they get a little bit of a pass. I don't know how much of a pass. They got to get good soon. But in all seriousness, though, you have to compete, and this roster can definitely compete. Luxury Watch Blue has been a successful team at Apex for a while now, and
finalists, right? I believe it's season 2, or 1 or 2. They were finalists, I think. No, I think it was season 1. They were in the finals against Envy.
Yeah, so.
I don't know.
I mean,
I'm mixing up.
Looking at this roster, I'd be lying to you if I said I saw championship potential season 1. Okay, but I would be hard pressed to not include these guys in the top quarter or top half of any initial rankings or projections for how these things are going to play out. So it's very important to, in New York, be a successful team, and he valued that over that, kind of having recognizable players that people from the
NA.
US would that would identify with a little more. He doesn't, and I don't necessarily think he's wrong. Knowing what I know about New York sports fans, he's got a decent handle on it, and this team will definitely compete. And one other thing he said was that he sees the ability to improve in these guys, and I don't know what kind of coaching they've had before. I assume a good chunk of the coaching staff is coming with them. I'm definitely not too sure where Pavane is hailing from, but I'm excited to see what they can do. I definitely think it's a solid roster. It will definitely compete. Like, they won't be in the bottom half, I think, with this group. Bill's colors. So overall, I'd say a real solid team here from New York should do pretty well.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I agree with everything you said. I think that they're a solid roster just to begin with. Bare Hands goes into a little bit more detail about the roster, so I won't give in too much there. But the one thing I will say before we move on is I saw on Twitter, the New York Mets, who is owned by the same larger owner. I don't remember the name of the actual org or person it is, but New York Mets tweeted or retweeted. I think they sent out a tweet with like the New York Mets mascot that was like, "Welcome, New York Excelsior to the Met." Blah blah blah. So like, Major League Baseball team tweeting out about Overwatch League. A, awesome. B, the response to that tweet was vicious. Like, people just being like, what is this? What is this doing? People just saying no. Like,
I love the ignorance of like, not a sport. It's like, no kidding. Like, you don't think everybody involved in esports knows that they're sitting in a computer chair playing a video game? Like, calm down, buddy. Calm down.
So the point that I wanted to make before we move on is like, it doesn't matter if to those people. So like, obviously to esports insiders and to people who are following Overwatch esports, like, okay, yeah, having a quote unquote star-studded lineup is going to make us, people who are in the know, want to like a team one more than another. But to the, for lack of a better word, muggles of esports or no-mags of esports, there's your reference there, Death. People who have no understanding of esports whatsoever, they don't care like if CoolMat69 is on Excelsior. That's just as, to them, dumb or unknown or crazy or stupid as an entire Korean roster. So like, you're not any further forward if you have an NA roster or a well-known NA Overwatch League team versus a Korean team. So like, he values being a successful and a strong team, which is going to, at the end of the day, that's what's going to win the hearts of New York fans. Like, I'm sure that there are plenty of Yankees or Mets fans that don't care at all about soccer, but they will root for the New York team if the team is good. I guarantee you that. But let's move on to the next team. And I know, Death, you didn't want to talk about this one, so I'll go right out and say it. We got the Seoul Dynasty.
No, not this one.
What?
We've had this one. I told you this in the pre-show.
Oh, well, whatever.
It's like old news. If you want to read the roster, that's fine. But we read it.
Well, we know we know the roster, but we didn't have. We didn't have the branding for it.
I think we did for the last episode.
No, we talked about it on the Halloween episode.
Oh, okay, that's right.
Because I definitely would have made a "they're great" reference, which I just did there. So their logo is a tiger. Seoul Dynasty, black and gold. Overall, I really like the. I like the color scheme. I like the logo. I like the roster. The roster is essentially Lunatic High with a couple of changes, but I like it overall. Obviously they're going to be a good team. I think they're going to be a little bit worse than people expect, though. I think a lot of people are like, "Oh, well, them and Fuel are going to be 1 and 2." I'm like, I don't even know if I agree with that.
Yeah, I don't know that I agree with it either. Obviously, they're going to be a strong team. I mean, this is a lot like Luxury Watch Blue. I don't know. I felt like they were very positive. Before Season 4 started, right, of Apex, I had them as my number 2 Korean team. And I had them behind Kongdu Panthera. Or Kongdu C9, whatever they were playing under the whole time. I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, Cloud9 Kongdu. I had them above Lunatic High. And then Lunatic High goes out there and just got crushed 8-0 in 2 different matches by GC Busan. And now those 2 teams are going to be fusing together in London. Not officially, but that's exactly what's going to happen. So you can mark that one down. And we just don't, I just don't know how much this is going to fare or how well this is going to fare for the Seoul Dynasty. I mean, they're going to be competitive. There's by no means a bad roster here. I don't even think there's a bad player, but we're going from a conversation of, are they a top 5 team to are they favorites to win it? I think they're 3rd or 4th on that list for me. So, I mean, that's a very good chance. Like, so much stranger things have happened in sports and esports than the 3rd or the 4th, favorite team to win it. But I don't know. I don't share the super hype behind this roster that a lot of people are seeing. I think they're still kind of just default penciled in as the best team from Korea, and people haven't really done their homework to change that opinion. And I think they're making a lot of excuses for what happened in Apex Season 4, and I did my fair share of that while it was happening. But looking back at it, I don't know. I mean, how much does it matter, right? Like, this is, the one thing I will say about these Korean teams and the Korean rosters is they have more LAN experience than the rest of the EU and the NA scene. So they do definitely have that going for us. I think they're going to be a very popular pick to win it, but I would tend to agree with you that I don't even know that they'll be the top finishing, full Korean roster to place here.
Yeah, I think they're going to be strong right out of the box because obviously they're a full team. They've played with each other. They played LAN with each other for a long time, but I think that the other teams, A, are going to be very good and better comparatively than a lot of people are expecting, and B, like they're going to have the ability to watch film. They're going to be able to practice specifically against them, and we have seen what can happen to Lunatic High specifically when a team is ready for them. We saw GC Busan just absolutely destroy them.
And GC Busan will literally be in the league. So they've got Seoul Dynasty at least has their sights set in London right now. They want that matchup. They want to get over that. And if they're able to do that, if they're able to take out London, my opinion will change very, very fast as to the order of the Korean teams and how I think they'll finish. But we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
But we were talking mostly about the branding here, and I didn't weigh in on it all. I think this is another home run. I mean, it's no Greenwall, but it's a really, really good one. I don't know the relationship of Tigers with Korea. I have to assume they're a part of it. I'm not super into the Asian culture, so I don't know, but I do really like the colors, gold, black, and white, and it is like a deep, dark gold when you compared to like the gold on the Shock logo, and it just looks really sharp. The Diva skin looks awesome. Yeah. So very excited for that.
The other thing that they mentioned in the reveal video is that actually the furrowed brow of the tiger is actually like a different. It's like it's a symbol. It's a little bit of a warped symbol in Korean that means like champion or something like that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so
they Easter egg in there.
Yeah, there's a little bit of Easter egg in there. It's really cool. It looks like a sports team logo. Like it looks like a. Although I kind of wish that we had some more like '90s style, like over the top, like wacky logoing, like the old Raptors logo or like the old Hornets logo or like any of those like crazy wacky ones, but. Maybe we'll see some of those in retro. Maybe we'll see some, they can do alternate like mascot and logo skins and stuff. There's just so much potential for money there. But let's move on. Okay, so this is the one that Death definitely did not want to talk about.
I'm not
didn't want
talking
to come
about
out. We got the Boston Uprising. And
all right, I'll stop. You can get through it.
We got the Boston Uprising. Their color scheme, think of original classic Wolverine from X-Men. That's exactly what it is. Except I guess it's more blue than yellow. Yellow's more of the highlight color. The logo is, again, it's a little bit more of an obscure-ish type of logo. I mean, it's a B and a U kind of, and it looks kind of like, it almost looks like a home plate, like a baseball, like home plate. That's kind of the shape of it. So blue and yellow, the main colors, although in one of their tweets they showed they had a giveaway for some of their merch. The colors are just black and white, which honestly looks pretty sweet. I know we talked about this on the Omnic Lab episode. It looked pretty sweet. It just had like the uprising I think was in yellow, and then it was like black and yellow and white, and it looked really sharp. So it's going to be interesting to see how they can vary up their merch and their color scheme across the different colors and stylizing it. But overall, I like the branding. I'm not super thrilled on the logo. I think it's all right. I do like the I don't know. I think it's less of the actual colors, blue and yellow, and more of the it's a very vibrant yellow. Like the highlight color really pops compared to the base color, which I like. I don't necessarily like the blue and yellow or the blue and yellow. It does look very Marge Simpson's Minions, Wolverine. Like we put out all these memes, a couple memes. We put out a lot of those memes, but I know Death, you were pretty not in on it at all.
Well, I mean, so if I put my
hatred for Boston,
enormous bias aside, okay, and I just look at this from, I'm somebody from Boston, so I don't hate them, and I look at it, and generally speaking, I actually really like the logo. About the name in particular, I think the name is awesome. Yeah. I really, really like the name. They did a great job coming up with that. It fits very well with the regionality of it. Boston Tea Party starting from there, I think, is really the beginning of everything there. And I'm not 100% sure of all the other tie-ins that might be there. I think the logo overall looks pretty nice. It reminds me quite a bit of something I'd see on like a college football helmet or something like that. So I think they did a really good job there. What I hate is the colors. I think the blue and the yellow together, I don't like it. It looks gross to me. Maybe it's just on the skin too, because I look at the logo and I don't mind it super bad, but it could just be the skin. Who knows? When we see some of the other ones, I'll update my opinion if anybody cares, but I might be out of nice things to say about Boston by that time. So, we'll have to wait and see how it goes. But personally, let's read the roster because they got bigger fish to fry than what colors they are, I think. Yeah,
so I'm just going to read it through. We've got Striker, who's a DPS from Rox Orcas, a Korean team. We've got Gamsu, tank from Conbox. We've got Kalios, tank from Africa Freaks. Mistakes is a DPS from 123. Snow is a support from Toronto Esports. Dream Casper, DPS from Tempo Storm. We've got Kelix. We've got Note, who, interesting enough, we're going to be having on the show very shortly. Listening to this
Kelix, I'm sorry,
next week.
I forgot to fill it in. Kelix is he's a support player from Singularity. So
there we go.
Another guy from the EU side of things that found a home in the league. So good for him.
And then Note is a tank from Toronto Esports. And then we've got Krusty as a head coach, Shake as assistant coach, Minnie is another assistant coach, Mr. Bleeple is the analyst, and then of course Huck is the I don't even know what his title is, but like GM,
president of gaming or something like that. But yeah, essentially like that GM position.
The big boy. So Death, I know, and I know you're not the only one here, but a lot of people are really down on this roster.
Yeah. First of all, let's talk about who I like here. I love Mistakes. I think he absolutely should have had a spot in this league. And generally speaking, I mean, I don't want to be too harsh on these guys.
Yeah,
I think a lot of these guys, I'll have plenty of time. Let's not do it right before we talk to Note on the same day. But, I just think, obviously, there's a huge Toronto esports contingent here. Okay, so 3 of the players, or is it just 2? Looks like just 2. Yeah. 2 of those guys are coming in, and Dream Casper is another guy. I think he's a solid player. I'd view him more in the kind of backup role, I think, than a main. And that's exactly what he might be doing. So that's not a criticism at all. But the Toronto esports guys, I don't know. We haven't seen them on the big stage near enough to know what we've got here, right? So everybody's been very pessimistic and kind of rightfully so, right? Because when you have complete unknown quantities and an unproven group, there's not much to be optimistic about. If there was much to be optimistic about, they wouldn't be an unknown group.
All right.
But there is an opportunity here. So I don't want it to just be like, we're calling that. They would be my prediction so far of the rosters I've seen for last place. But there's a big opportunity here. And if we're wrong and this team is right, Huck's a genius. And anybody who says different is fooling themselves. So if this team can come out and finish in the top half of the league, I think Boston, unfortunately, would be really somebody to fear long term because they've got a process in place. They're identifying talent that other people weren't identifying. Now, for the rest of this roster here, Striker from Rox Orcas, Gamzu from Conbox, Kalios from Africa Freaks, and let's see, I'm trying to think, is there anybody else? Oh yeah, Kelix. These guys weren't the stars of their team, right? Like, so they were kind of the supporting cast on their rosters previously. So I don't know who's going to, you have to have guys on your team that can stand on their head and dominate and take over the game. And I don't see that here. I don't know who's going to do that. It's going to have to come from Mistakes or Dreamcasper from looking at it. And I don't know that Dreamcasper has it in him. Now, he's been idle for a while. He comes from Tempo Storm. So he's kind of been out of the scene for a bit. He very well could have leveled up. I do think Mistakes is a top quality DPS player, and I think he's going to do very well in the league. But yeah, just overall, it's underwhelming, right? Like, it lacks that star power. It lacks that punch. And with only 12 teams in the league, everybody should have star power. Everybody should have punch. And I just am not seeing it here. Yeah, everybody could. And I'm not seeing it. We'll have to wait and see. Hopefully for Boston fans, I'm wrong. Hopefully for me, I'm not.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's obviously taking a page from the San Francisco Shock playbook of, okay, we're going to pretty much start from scratch here. There's not really a backbone to this team. It's obviously not a pre-made squad. But like you said, yeah, there's not a lot of people, at least from our eyes of being mostly NA viewers, there's not a ton of like if you threw Shadowburn on this team, like, okay, it makes sense. You picked up Shadowburn and you built a team around him. That makes sense. But there's not that like rock of this roster that we know of, at least, or that we're familiar with. It's perfectly possible that Striker from Rox Orcas is much better than we're familiar with. Or obviously some Mistakes is quite good as well. It's entirely possible that they're much better than we're estimating here. But I agree with you. Like, we've talked about, this has been talked about a lot in the community on Twitter and whatnot, and we've also talked about it on our internal Discord. It's like, what's going on with this roster? Like, it's not making a ton of sense. It's like you could throw, even if you threw like AKM, who's not currently signed and has said that he's not signed yet on this squad, it might make a little more sense. You could have Mangachu on this roster. The one thing that makes or could make some sense to me is this roster this roster is entirely filled with personality fits. And if Huck did his research and his due diligence with these players, they're all in it for the long run. They're going to be team players. They're going to play their role. They're going to help out where they need to. It's possible that is all the case. There's no, like, these are all personality fits and organization fits rather than actual playing fits. And then also, it's possible, it still hasn't been confirmed or denied yet, although it's been heavily implied, that there's going to be a salary cap in terms of a team salary cap. So it's possible that this is almost like a Moneyball play where, there's not that star-studded player that you had to pay, a huge percentage of your cap to, and there's some salary cap space. We also see that there's 2, 4, 6, 8. There's 8 players here, so there's still 4 slots on the roster that could be filled up. We've generally been seeing 9, 10, as many as 12 for these teams. So it's possible that they saved a bunch of salary cap space to pick up that free agent halfway through the season, if that is how it works. Or
that talent who's in contract jail right now and can't break out of it until halfway through the season.
On a contenders team that doesn't want to, wants to be in Overwatch League. Like, it's possible that because they've saved so much cap space, they have the most compelling. They have the most compelling reason to bring on the best, non-Overwatch League players.
Yeah, so overall, I don't see anything here that would make, like, if I was planning to be a Boston fan, I don't think anything's changed. Just kind of, alarm bells might be ringing a little bit, but there's obviously, room to move, and we don't know the whole set of rules. So we've kind of just got to sit tight, hang out through BlizzCon, figure out exactly what's going on, and reevaluate after that point. But if you were hoping to see a lot of really big, excitement based around this team, you're probably going to be a little disappointed in that. And the one thing I will say that's super interesting to me, because I want to hate them, is Shake is the assistant coach. I think that's a great sign. Shake is a really smart player. We've seen him around quite a bit, but he knocked me out of Contenders.
Oh.
So there's a little personal animosity now between me and that coaching staff. So I don't know, just calling it out. We were never going to be friends as soon as you sign that roster, but it's just a little more fuel to the fire that I need to keep the hatred up for these guys.
Yep. And that's actually a perfect segue. Speaking of Death Blow getting into fights with people and organizations and teams and staff, let's talk about the LA Valiant. So we had the name and logo and all that stuff was revealed a while ago, so we don't need to talk about that. They're brought to us by John Deere. But we got... So, Death, I'll let you talk about this because I know you're the one that's...
Yeah, so they put out this Twitter poll, and I don't know about anybody else, but I was really under the impression we were getting every single roster today. And this happened yesterday. So up until yesterday, I was fully expecting to see every player on every team today because I'm used to sports where you have to file these things with the league office that then it literally gets forwarded to the reporters. Like, they don't have to hunt it. It gets sent out to them. So I'm very used to when these contracts are signed, they're not signed. Like, in order to officially sign a player, you have to submit it to the league office. That's what does it, right? And at that point, it's public. So Valiant puts out this tweet yesterday, and they're like, "Well, you can pick. We're letting you decide which one of the roles do you want to see announced." And it's like, dude, your roster's been leaked. Like, not one of the players that have been leaked to be going on your team have been signed anywhere else. Your roster's leaked. You flopped in Contenders last season, so anybody that wants to root for you has to have very serious concerns and want to know what you're going to do to supplement the roster, who you're bringing, who you're cutting, what's going on. And they're only going to release it piecemeal, one at a time. I'm sorry, that's crazy to me. Like, I'm not the only one that made their decision today about who to root for. Right. Okay. Valiant wasn't out of the running. Philly was not out of the running. Miami was not out of the running. Houston was not out of the running. I made my decision today. I will not change it. There's no roster that could come out that would counteract the hype I felt today watching the announcement video, all that stuff. Like, I was surprised. And I wanted to be into it. I was leaning into being super into it and I was surprised how pumped I was for the Houston reveal. It was super well done. It was really great. Go out there and watch everything. They've already got interviews out with a bunch of their players. But anyways, we're talking about Valiant now. But by them not releasing their whole roster, like, they took themselves out of contention for me being their fan. And I'm not the only one that had done this too. So my response to their tweet was like, well, tomorrow's the deadline, so how about all of them? And then I catch a ton of flack from their social media guy who comes at me and tells me to watch my sass or something like that. It was whoops. And I'm just like, dude, what do you want me to do? Like, I'm going to ratchet up the sass if I have every roster but yours to talk about on the show tomorrow. Like, I'm not going to just give you guys a free pass on that. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, I want to be a fan of you, and you're just being like, no. And that's how it came off to me. But with that said, they did announce their DPS players. So Agility's Soon, Silk Thread, and Grim Reality. Now, Grim Reality, I think, was the one that was not rumored to be on the team. Yeah. Since they don't want to give you the rest of their roster, I'm more than happy to. Yep. Our Agility Soon, Silk Thread. Oh, we have Grim Reality listed twice.
Maybe he was revealed before. I'm just blind.
Okay, yeah, I think that might be the case. But to go along with those 4 DPS players, you're going to see Verbo, Kariv, Envy, Unco, Numlocked, and Fate go to this team. The fact that not one of these guys have gone anywhere else lends a lot of credence to this. Every minute, every second that they wait, the fact that the DPS were nailed 4 for 4 just lends more and more credence to the fact that one of their guys let this out. Interestingly enough, they said they were going to announce it this week, like the whole roster, and then went back on their word. Yeah. So that's super frustrating as well, which makes me really question why I was given flack for it. But anyways, that's the guy they paid to run their social media. So good luck.
I would also, so 2 things I'd like to say. Sure. I don't have any animosity towards Valiant whatsoever.
I mean, I don't either. It's just, this is frustrating, and that guy bugged me.
Yeah. So Josh, we're good. We're good, buddy. I won't get. I talked about the whole situation before. B, I did reach out to. I don't actually know the titles of the people who I reached out to, but I talked to Josh Kim, who's been on the show, about who I should reach out to in terms of doing a talk about the roster reveal, etc., or doing something with the roster reveal with Valiant, and got no response. So just, for that sake, just so that's all out in the air. We did try to get something going. Didn't.
And this is nothing we haven't already said on the air before, so we're not like breaking any news. But if you are like me and you were wondering what the Valiant roster would look like, because you might want to root for them, that's probably what it's going to look like. Yeah. We only know the 4 guaranteed. I don't expect to have to wait long, right? Like the deadline for announcing is at BlizzCon, so we will get Miami and Philly and every player on every team will be announced and locked up, and we'll know for the next episode to talk about it. But just a little frustrating. And Blevins, can we get a shame bell for not revealing your roster on the deadline, please? Like for all of them, all 3 of them that didn't do it. Shame. Like you're all sharing this.
Shame.
Yep. There it is.
All right. Well, moving on from the frustrating Valiant thing there, I did scrim against Numlocked this past week. That was one thing I should have brought up.
You did. You still can.
Which was a whole lot of fun, and I did my best to get that kind of like nod to it. Like at the end in the GG's phase, I said valiant effort everyone, and all I got was like a lull from him. So I tried to catch him, but I couldn't quite do it. And anybody who's wondering, no, I didn't scrim against the Valiant roster. He filled in for one of the admins of the OW Discord has a team, and they needed a tank, so Numlocked filled in. I didn't drop a map, and I 1v1'd him with Mercy. That's all I'll say. Yeah. Moving on, though.
That's all you'll say and post on YouTube.
Yes, over and over again, forever and ever. Anytime Valiant loses to Houston, I'm going to tweet it.
I don't know. What was a more savage beating? You 1v1ing him, or us randomly breaking the picture of him at TwitchCon with Immortals?
They were both 360 no scopes. Let's just say that.
Let's say that. Yep.
Mercy doesn't have a scope, so I feel confident with calling that a no scope.
Awesome. So let's talk about the shock thing first, because I think the other one is more exciting, and we'll spend more time.
Sure.
So we had a signing for the San Francisco Shock. They've been a known quantity. They were revealed. They did their roster announcement and branding stuff in a timely manner, early on. Okay, and they did it in a cool way too. They did it in an awesome way. Shaq. Kudos to Shaq. Shaq also, the invitation is still open to come on the show. Just saying.
We'll never close. We'll never stop doing this show. Even after nobody's playing Overwatch and nobody's listening, we will continue doing this show until you get to talk to Shaq. Life goals.
Yeah, it is 100% is a life goal. But yeah, they signed Nevix, formerly of Cloud9. So,
and Misfits and Graviton Surge and Impulse 11. Nevix has been around, and he's a very, very flexible player. Yep. He fits the exact role. We were wondering what they were going to do. Like, who's going to play Genji for this team? Well, Nevix is going to do it. He's going to lock that down. A really, really great signing. I mean, he did wonders for this roster. When I look at it, there was that huge gaping opening, right? That huge, like, who's going to play Projectile? And now they have Genji. I don't think you have to have a Pharah. Their roster, off the top of my head, is escaping me a little bit. They very well might have a Pharah, but I don't think it's, like, necessary that you have one. And overall, I mean, he's just a really, really solid, really good player. A ton of experience. He's got LAN experience. He's got anything you could possibly ask for. He's got it. And I think he's going to really bring a lot of balance to the Shock roster.
Yeah, I think again, Shock has kind of set the tone for, okay, this is how we're going to build our roster. We're going to handpick the people we want, regardless of their synergy together, having played together and whatnot. We're going to build a roster like we would a Little League baseball team. We're gonna find the best players that we can. I don't actually know if that's how Little League baseball teams are made, but really good signing, filling in a spot that they needed filled. Though I feel like there's still like a first half of the season, who in the world is going to play tanks for them question to be asked. But, I think they're less concerned about that and more concerned about the overall success of the team long run for season one. But moving on, we got a couple other signings for Fuel, Dallas Fuel of all teams. I don't think I mean, they had soft alluded to them signing more players before, but we didn't really, I didn't pay too much credence to it just because, like, they're envious. Like anyone else, that is going to be kind of not as exciting, right? Mm-hmm. Well, they added 2 more flags to their roster, which they definitely, they've been talking about and lauding over everyone. And they got 2 more flags. They got Canada flag, and they got Australia. So from Australia, we got Costa. Yep. You want to talk a little bit about Costa, Death?
Yeah, Costa is a flex support player from Australia. As you said, he's played for Arc 6. He's played for Fnatic. He beat me in a tournament when he was on Nubis. Presumably, I'm not 100% sure that's accurate. He was on Gale Force Esports, Code 7. So this is another guy that's been around, though it's been a little bit, right? Like, I think it's probably July was the last we probably saw him in action. So he's been a little bit MIA, but I think it was the Beat Invitational. Back in July was the last time we saw him. So good on him for finding a spot on the team. Australia has a lot of really good talent that I think is going unnoticed. Like we talked about Blank Esports in the past. And I think they're going to, they have a good chance to make some bench spots here, or at least did, and they very well still might for all we know on any of the unannounced teams. But Costa, he's going to have a hard time fitting into a roster that has Chipsogen, like you said. But he's a really, really solid player. Chips might not have Sombra in his hero pool. We see Taimu play that more often than not. So there's not there's a definitely a good chance he finds his way in. I don't know that I've ever really seen, Envy operate out of the 2 support, or the 3 DPS 1 support when you have the Sombra there. I've never seen them do that. They always do it with 2 supports and then Sombra as well. So this gives them some flexibility. I don't think he's going to be a huge impact player for them, but I think he's a player that can be developed. I think he has a lot of what's the word I'm looking for here? Potential, and he's going to be a good solid player in this league going forward. So even if it's just like, and I love that the team might be willing to do this, right? Like if they're bringing on developmental players, he's kind of like a starting caliber player, but Chipsogen is the best flex support in the game to me. So I love that they're bringing in people that they can improve and get better, and it might take him some time to get used to the roster before they start bringing him in, but anything's possible. And if they do ever need it, if Chips gets the flu or anything like that, the games must go on, you guys. So you have to have backups, and this will be a strong one. So there's a really good chance they could, go in and handle an opponent with the backup support here, because he's a very solid player.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. I mean, it's one of the things that we take for granted with Envy, now Fuel, is that like they're so dominant that like you tend to overlook the fact that they might have some comps they can't really run. They just play other comps better than other people, so they might not even be running optimal comps, and adding some other players can allow them to flex, like you said, flex around and be flexible, which is obviously very important, especially in a league structure like this. Like what you don't want to do, and this is something I don't even know if we've talked about specifically. You don't want to be running. It's like, if we're on Eichenwald point 2, we're going to run this comp every time with these players, no matter what. Because, after, week 1 or week 2, week 3, it's like, okay, well, we know what they're going to run. We can beat that. I'm convinced that the teams are not so much, one team is not so much better than another one, that if you spent all of your time and effort to try to beat one team's comp and how they play it, that you can't do it. I think it's possible. I don't think it's out of the realm of question. I think people, especially people who aren't used to playing sports at that level, undervalue the analysis of comps and watching film, essentially. Like, that is extremely helpful. So Costa will definitely add to that. And then also the other signing that we had, the Canada flag added, was XQC. And this one, I think there's a little bit of, I don't know, this one was a little more of a like, this is kind of interesting, because XQC has a bit of a reputation.
I want to take a little bit of credit here, because in the Discord there was a lot of like crazy speculation. I mean, there's a lot of Fuel fans in the Discord. There's a lot of Fuel fans, period.
Greenwall.
Greenwall, you're gonna lose fuel. But yeah, so there's a lot of speculation about who the next flag would be, right? And we knew it was going to be somebody from a country where they didn't already have a player.
Yeah.
And everybody was like looking at all these flex DPS players and, where because they have the easiest fit in here, right? But when you looked at the roster, there was, if Coco got sick, what were they going to like? And they have to think that way. Like, you guys, like, these players are going to get the flu. They're going to end up in, the hospital with an illness someday, or you know what I mean? Yeah. You never know what's going to happen. Right. Or you're just having a bad day. And also, Coco's very set. He's a much better Reinhardt than a Winston to my eye. We've seen him play both. He can definitely play both at the highest level. But XQC is a very good, very aggressive Winston player. So I think there's a real chance XQC actually subs into this main roster more than a lot of the other additions and a lot of the other backups. But like you said, there's a lot of questions about XQC. Oh, but the reason I needed to brag was because I literally said, like, does Canada have any main tanks? Like, because that's probably the most likely thing to me is that we get a Canadian main tank in here. I don't expect it to be like some crazy weird country or anything like some people were trying to predict. But
Zimbabwe has a really
right. Or who's down there in Brazil? Like, there's a lot of good players down in Brazil. But yeah, it was just, I didn't see any reason to go crazy flashy with it when they had just a need at something that was easier to find than that, I think. Yeah. But anyways, so the question is XQC is a bit of a meme lord and a little bit skews towards the toxic side. I'm not going to say he hasn't done anything stupid like the Fran has or anything like that, but it just kind of a negative for all the PMA fans out there. Like, he seems to kind of have a negative mental attitude instead of a positive one. The question is for me is it a gig? Is it a stream persona or is it who you are? And even if it's who you are, can you shut it off? Because now you're a professional, not really an athlete, but a professional athlete essentially, as far as the effort and the attention you have to put into
PR,
things.
Yeah, that's exactly what you are.
Can you show up at practice and just act like a human being and speak slow enough that any human being can possibly understand? I only know what he puts out to the forward-facing world. So, I've heard that it's probably a bit of an act. I would assume, I can't imagine anybody has the energy to be that way 100% of the time.
You have to put on a show for people when you're streaming.
Right, 100%. When you're streaming, you absolutely do. It's smart to do so, and it helped him get his name, and it helped his name get out there. So, and as long as you're not doing anything, like, being toxic isn't always like a bad thing, right? Like, you can just be joking or you can BM people a little bit and not be like a terrible human being about it. But so I feel like people kind of overreact when you say somebody's toxic. Like, I'm not like damning the guy, but he's a little on the toxic side.
I think, and this can lead into the last thing that I didn't plan on talking about, but this is a really good segue into it. And I want to talk about it before I end up going to the World Cup is like, I think there's a huge difference between being toxic and not being positive to everyone. I think there's two different things. I think there's being, there's a line, and I don't know if I necessarily know exactly where that line gets or should or should not be crossed. I think it's different in different situations, but I think like there are certain things that are just awful, like racial slurs and anything like that. That's just like obviously like, okay, don't say that or don't do that because it's just actively awful and cruel and like, okay, that stuff, like throw that right in the garbage. Like that's not, you don't need to do that. But like, and the thing that we've talked about forever, booing. That's not toxic. I don't think it is. I think most of the people, and thinking back about it, and some conversations I had in some Discords, it's like it's like, you know what, the booing culture and that like very adamant like sports culture might not be present in non-US countries that aren't like, if you are in a European country and you aren't into soccer, you probably don't know about like booing and having extreme vehement sports fanaticism. Like,
yeah, you guys, the soccer community's got it worse than anything in America.
Soccer definitely is, and the European folks that I've been in chats with are like, yeah, no, soccer is vicious, and like soccer can be vicious. It's bad, but like I was talking, like I was in a thing, and I'm like, I'm like getting ready. I need people to join me in the hashtag Boo Crew at World Cup, and people are like, oh, you shouldn't BM, you shouldn't boo, like everyone should be cheering for everything. Shut up. Absolutely not. Like, we talked about it for a while. Like, you need to boo. Like, there's no, like, you are not going to build the same level of fanaticism that you see in sports, and you're not going to build that same community if you don't have an us versus them. You're not going to build a solid and vibrant esports community if it's like, oh, well, I like every team equally and I'm rooting for everyone. It's like, that's not competition. You might as well just be like showing off, like you might as well just be doing like speed run trials or something. It's like, oh, we just want to see the best stuff happen. Yeah, we're not even playing against each other. Like, no, like, we need to have like I love, and I'm not even super familiar with the specifics of it, but I love the fact that there is already going to be that optic Greenwall coming in, and they're apparently like super into optic. I can't wait to see that happen. Greenwall! I can't wait to see that happen. I can't wait to see, what some of the other teams come up with, and I'm really hoping that we I want to be like, I know it's going to be like this for World Cup because I'm going to be there, and I know there's going to be a lot of other people that are going to be leading the charge there. I want it to go crazy when USA plays against Korea. Like, I want it to be absolutely insane. Like that, like, you can take anyone, whether they are a sports fan, whether they're an esports fan, whether they know about Overwatch, whether they know about anything, you can take a human being who understands what competition is and can at least in some ways appreciate competition. You take them to an event, whether it be sporting or esports, and you get thousands of people rooting and booing and cheering and being excited about a competition. It doesn't matter what they know or don't know. They are going to be hooked. There is something about human beings and culture and whatnot that, like, you get the cheering and booing and all that stuff. Like, that is like ingrained in us as human beings, and that is going to get people. Like, that's what the biggest thing is. The number one thing that people understand when I talk to them about esports and they have no idea what it is, I'm like, League of Legends World Championship Series sold out Madison Square Garden. There were thousands, tens of thousands of fans cheering for these players. Like, whoa, I get that. Like, there are big music concerts that don't sell out Madison Square Garden, but what? Video games? Okay, this is worth a second look now. Like, you're not going to get that if everyone's like, okay, we're going to go watch these teams. We're going to root for both teams. Like, you're not going to see people travel the country and follow teams. You're not going to see people want to go to home games.
May the best team win is something nobody should say in sports once the people that are playing it are like in high school. Like, even in high school, like, you should hate the other team. And
yeah, I'm as a competitive high school athlete, I'm 100% in on that. Like, I will boo. Nah, I won't boo. I'm too old to boo now in high school.
We can't.
High school,
you got to be
can't.
in high school to boo at the high
you
school.
have to, yeah, you have to. Yeah, once you're older in high school, you have to show some class. But college, oh yeah, I'm booing, 100%.
Yeah.
But that's that. You're gonna see me leading the boo crew, potentially as Doc Pool, at the World Cup. But yeah. Anything else, Seth? I think that we I don't even know how long this was because we paused it, but we're definitely coming up on time. Anything else we want to talk about before we get going?
No, I think that's it. It's next week as a warning, though, guys. It could be a little weird with Blevins traveling and everything like that. I know we're going to have the interview locked and loaded, ready to go. It's possible we do miss the episode, but we're going to really try not to because there should be just a ton of news. Worst case scenario, although both the On the Clap guys are going, worst case scenario, I'll come on and do like a 30-minute solo podcast or something like that. We'll figure something out.
I can call in from California on Monday.
Yeah, like we'll do our best, but yeah, you're traveling a little bit later, so it might be weird timing, but it should definitely happen.
So we can talk about the actual details later, but I'm actually going to be available all day Monday. I'm just going to be in California, so that'll be that. So last second stuff for me. If you're going to be at BlizzCon and you see me or you want to meet up, hit me up either on Twitter or something like that. Please boo Korea in the first round against USA. Like, root for USA. If you don't want to specifically boo, I'm not going to hold it against you, but root for USA. Come on. We got to
cheer your face off.
Cheer your face off. There was something else I wanted to say, but I don't remember what it was. But yeah, I think that is gonna be it, guys. Yeah, huge shout outs to all our patrons. If you want to support us on Patreon, you always can. Patreon.com/High Noon Podcast. All the links to everything you could ever want, iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, YouTube, all that good stuff is over at highnoonpodcast.com. Huge thanks to Matcherino for supporting our SoundCloud page. All the SoundCloud users can thank Matcherino for that. And also huge thanks to Adam Hoek, who put out the awesome outro music that you are about to hear. But guys, this is going to be the last episode before BlizzCon. Oh, that was what I was going to say. I am going to try to, when it permits, live stream as much Overwatch World Cup and Overwatch related stuff from the Twitch channel live at BlizzCon. So if you're listening on podcast, go follow us at twitch.tv/High Noon Podcast. I'm going to try to stream as much stuff as I can from my phone, like IRL type stuff. So that should be awesome too. So join me there. But that's going to be it, guys. For Deathblow, I am the Blevins. And remember, right before BlizzCon, it's high noon.
Got his boots and he put on his hat. He threw the coin away that same day. It's in his past and he's not looking back. He says, finding mine now, God's my way. He's not good, but he sure ain't bad. He'll make amends for the sins that he has. He says, I'll change the world one bullet at a time till I find mine.
Greenwall!
Greenwall! Greenwall! Greenwall!